Everybody to the Spring 2018 Academic Auditor Training being held at the Tennessee Board of Regents System Office in Nashville, Tennessee. So we have a dual audience today. We have those who are here in the room with us, but we also have an audience of participants who are beaming in from remote locations. So I'd like to begin by welcoming all of you and by underscoring that one of the outcomes of the academic audit, perhaps an accidental outcome, although I think it's really built into the whole process, is the opportunity to meet your colleagues from other institutions, from other levels of institutions throughout the state, sometimes throughout the nation in certain cases, and in some cases even people who are representing business and industry or other stakeholder groups who participate as academic auditors. And you'll certainly have a chance to interface with your fellow team members, of which you'll be on a team, generally speaking, of 3, and hopefully get to know them very well as the people that you serve at the college or university that you are auditing, and in that way build relationships, build connections, and one might hope that maybe even build friendships along the way. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing at all. I'd like to begin then. We'll start here in the room, and if you will, we'll introduce ourselves. We'll go around the room, and if you'll say your name and your discipline, the field that you teach in or that you work in, your institution, and if you can remember the academic auditor team on which you're serving. All right, are we ready? No. Who's ready?
No, just playing. My name is Patsy Fancher. I'm from Southwest Tennessee Community College. I am the Department Chair of Communications, Graphic, and Fine Arts, and a professor in the graphic arts field. And we are doing the English audit at TSU.
TSU, very good.
I'm Lynn Alexander. I'm Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts at UT Martin. I'm a professor in the English department there as well. And I will be on the audit of Austin P. English department.
Very good. Thank you, Lynn.
I'm Laura Black. I teach at Volunteer State Community College, and I teach English, and I'm also working on the English program audit at TSU. So,
well, there's a teammate right there.
I'm here International State. I teach philosophy, and I'm on the team that audits for state humanities.
Very good.
I'm Justice Smith. I'm the paramedic coordinator at Montlow College for the EMS education program, and we're doing Columbia State's EMT program audit.
Very good.
I am Laura Dubeck, a professor of English at MTSU, and I am the 3rd member, along with Patsy and Laura Black, on the English department audit for TSU.
Wow.
The game's all here.
You could have a team meeting right after the session.
That's right. And
All right.
y'all can
Fantastic. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Sandra Poirier. I'm a professor in nutrition and food science at MTSU, and I'm working with Justice over here with the EMT program at Columbia State.
Very good. Thank you.
Laura Setash, I'm the VP for Institutional Effectiveness and Professor of Chemistry at Nashville State, and our academic audit coordinator is on extended leave, so I'm taking the opportunity to come. And as a refresher, the last time I served as an academic auditor was in 2010 when we audited the entire science program at Florida State. But I'm not serving on a team, but we have several programs that are being audited this term.
Very good. And just to underscore that each campus has an academic audit coordinator, somebody with whom I interface and am deeply, deeply indebted to, and they help to facilitate the whole process of the self-study reports, the submission thereof, and then especially with the site visit arrangements. So to Flora and her colleagues around the system, around the state, kudos.
I'm Moira Connolly from Pellissippi State. They're also remotely coming in, but I wanted to be here in person. English department, and I will be doing an academic audit at the art program at Cleveland State.
I'm Dennis Anderson with Dyersburg State Community College. My primary role is Director of Distance Education and Instructional Development. I also teach in our CITC program, and will be auditing Rhode State's HIMT program.
Very good.
I'm Debbie Barnard. I teach French at Tennessee Tech, and I am on the APSU foreign languages team.
C'est bon.
And I'm Alex Sequat. I serve as Associate Dean of Graduate Studies at Tennessee State, and I'll be joining the team for the Bachelor of Science Management degree at Austin Peay.
Okay.
I'm Deborah Burris Kitchen. I'm the chair of the Criminal Justice Department at Tennessee State University, and I'm going to Rhode State Community College, but I cannot remember which program.
Okay. I bet I can tell you. So you are going to Roane State for the Geographic Information Systems Program audit.
Thank you.
You'll find your way.
I'm Elizabeth White. I'm Assistant Professor of Languages. I teach education, virtual experience, and reading learning support. I'm also Assistant Dean of Brett Mottles Murray. And I'm doing Chat State's English audit.
All right.
Excited.
Good afternoon, I'm Phyllis Adams, Professor of Speech and Theater at Norfolk College. I'm Curriculum Chair of Humanities, and I will be traveling to Chattanooga State. And the area of working is education.
Okay.
Samuel Fung, Professor of Psychology Department, Austin Peay State University. We're doing the ETSU economic department.
Right.
I'm Scott McRoberts from Nashville State Community College, where I teach art, and I'll be auditing the fine art program at Mississippi State.
Very good. Just keep going back around the other way.
I am Jennifer Brazina. I'm the Dean of Humanities at Volunteer State Community College. By teaching backgrounds English, and I'll be visiting Southwest College to be an auditor for the Associate of Science and Teaching.
Very good.
I'm Tom Aikman. I'm the relatively new Dean of Math and Science at Volunteer State. I'm a chemist, and I'm here to learn. I'm not on audit, but not been through this, seen this process before, wasn't able to come to training in the fall, so I'm here
Good.
to learn more about the process.
Good. Fine.
Eric Jesse, Program Director for EMS at Ball State, also instructor there. I'll be doing the audit at Chattanooga State for the EMT program.
Very good.
Good afternoon, I'm Juliet Rattle. I work in Tennessee campus as well as academic affairs, and I'm here to learn more about the academic audit process.
Very good.
Coach, also from Ball State, I'm the current science chair, also relatively new, so Dean and I are both here. We will be audited, not auditors, and so we're here to sort of see the process.
Okay, good. Forewarned is forearmed. Hi.
U.S. Department of Energy Oak Ridge contractor, licensed private investigator, emergency management specialist and expert, former college educator at Rhode State, GIS user, Geographic Information System Science user and lover.
Oh.
And I get the honor of participating on an academic audit at Rhode State's GIS program.
So I wasn't quite sure, Kurt, if you were a Geographic Information Systems user and separately from that, a lover, or if you loved GIS programs. But either way, I'm not going there.
I was advised by my colleague to be very careful.
There you go.
My name's Kurt Butefish. I'm coordinator of the Tennessee Geographic Alliance out of the Geography Department at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And I'm on the GIS team at Rhode State.
You're well armed. Yeah, good.
I'm Karen Kendall Fight. I'm an associate professor of biology at Columbia State Community College. Looks like I'm going to Southwest for their biotechnology technician self-study report.
Yeah, good, good. And just arrived?
Holly Anthony, Tennessee Tech University, Mathematics Department, and I'm on the academic audit team for Austin Peay.
Okay, very good. How about those online? Allison.
Hello, I'm Allison Desmond from East Tennessee State University, where I'm a music department. I'm going to be going to Nashville State for the science.
Okay. Some people are not identified, so let me see who is. David.
I'm David Blevins. I'm the Director of EMS Education at Rome State Community College. I'll be meeting up with Dr. Poirier and Justice Smith, going to Columbia State for their EMS.
Very good. Denise King.
Denise King, I teach biology at Cleveland State, and I will be on the team going to Tennessee Tech for environmental and sustainability studies.
Very good. David Knopp. There, but
institutional research at Cleveland State. I'm going to volunteer state for their resistance program.
okay, I think we got some of that. Devat Carter. Devat? Not there.
I'm Devette
Go ahead.
Carter at Cleveland State, and I'll be going to Chattanooga State to do their EMT and advanced EMT.
Very good, thank you. Eva Lewis. Jeff Gazzo. Just unmute your mic and if you're there. We won't try to do everyone then. We're having some, go ahead. Sure who we have there.
Hi, Randy. This is Karen Eastman from Chattanooga State.
Very good, thank you, Karen.
Yeah, Department Head of Life Sciences. I teach anatomy and physiology, and I'll be traveling to Tennessee State University for their Bachelor's of Science and Psychology program.
Very good. Is Karen Sorensen on the line?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Speak loudly.
I'm Karen Sorensen, Professor of French at Austin Peay, and I'll be doing the audit of Chattanooga State foreign language.
Very good, Karen. Paul Ludwig. Are you on, Paul? Paul is texting in. He is going to be a member of, he is from Walter State, English faculty, and doing the English programs at APSU. How about the folks from Pellissippi State? Who's there?
Elizabeth McCowan, and I am a professor in the APC program, and I'm going to be part of the auditor team from the logistics program at Auditor State.
Anyone else?
I'm Tammy Bowling.
Go ahead.
I'm Tammy Bowling. I'm with the APC department here at Pellissippi State, going to Walter State for clean energy technology. I'm Pauline Stain with the Paralegal Studies program at Pellissippi State, and I'll be going to Walter State for their criminal justice program.
I'm Tom Gavin. I'm the program director for culinary arts and hospitality at Pellissippi State, and I will be going to Nashville State for the fine arts program.
All right. Let's see, I've got a few more names up here. Stacy Bradshaw.
Hi, I'm Stacey Bradshaw, and I am the Associate Professor of Education at Rome State, and I will be going to Chattanooga State for their AST audit.
Very good, thank you. Rick Merritt. Rebecca Glatt.
Really loud, sorry. I teach anatomy and physiology at Pellissippi State, and I'll be on the program at Cleveland.
Okay, very good, thank you. Yang Chen? Okay, well, we have made a jolly good effort at utilizing this tool, and we've brought some of you probably closer to us than you ever wanted to be. That being said, let me try to return to the screen, and we'll move forward with the actual training process. One of the observations I'd like you to make about the introductions is what? What did you notice about the teams to which people are assigned and the things that people did?
They aren't necessarily auditing in their own discipline.
Who screwed up?
That's the business by design.
Why? It's by design, Phyllis said. Why?
For diversity and collaboration and inclusion.
Okay. Diversity, collaboration, inclusion. There are a lot of right answers to this question, so just babble.
Fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes. Yeah, seeing something from outside the discipline, right?
Limited expectations.
Oh, okay. A different set of expectations, right, right.
The focus is on process.
The focus is on process, okay? It's not just about subject matter, materials, what's being taught, what text is used, how they've structured their syllabus. That's important, but it's also all about how these things take place and what processes are in place to advance the program and the curriculum. Also, just keep in mind that no matter what you're teaching, whether it's GIS or criminal justice or English or foreign language or chemistry, whatever it might be, you're all linked by what common discipline? What are you all? You are all teachers. You are all educators. And there is an art and science to teaching that you are masters of. And so you are bringing that mastery, not of subject matter expertise, but the mastery of all the processes of teaching, okay, from learning outcomes to assessment and everything in between, with you as you delve into these self-studies, with you as you meet with your fellow team members, with you as you attend the site visit on campus, and with you as you reflect from that site visit and construct your final report. So keep in mind that even if you say, I don't know anything about this subject, that's not a bad thing, all right? As we said, it's by design, all right? As Phyllis said, nobody else said that. Other people are saying he just screwed up. But seriously, we've been doing this now for about 15 years, and the dynamic, the interrelationship of disciplines, the perspectives, the new eyes, someone said, beautifully. Also, just think about this. How many of you teach students who are not in your major? A few of you? A few of you? Okay. So we have to always be mindful of how our materials, how our delivery of those materials, our assessments of those materials are greeted by those people who are taking that course for general education, or who are taking that class because the person I ride in with is taking that class and there was nothing else to take and I needed an elective. In other words, there's 101 different reasons why a student might be in your class other than saying, this is the discipline that I want to study and this is the discipline I want to work in for the rest of my life. So we have to be mindful of those students who are not bound by their own accord and their own direction to your subject. So lots of different reasons for this diversity, and I hope that a chance to work with people from other disciplines. At the same time, we've tried very hard to place at least one subject matter expert on the team. This training will be beginning with the the conceptual overview, and then really dive in more than anything into your roles at auditors. What are the things that you're going to be doing, and particularly how you're going to evaluate the program that you are auditing. So it's good that all of you essentially who are assigned to a program know what that program is, and are getting to, in some instances, meet some of your fellow team members. And on top of that, we hope as we go into this process of the training that you'll get a sense of what I need to do when, and what my commitments are, what you've signed up for which we are very, very grateful. So conceptually, the academic audit, faculty-driven. When we think about jumping now to the site visit, we talk about the concept of structured conversation. So one of the vocabulary words to get over with very quickly is the term auditor. Okay, how many people like the sound of the word auditor? Okay, nobody ever raises their hand to that question, because we align an auditor with what process?
Taxes.
Taxes. So if you're being audited for your taxes, what are they trying to do? Somebody used a very appropriate vernacular term, but they're usually, we have this sense that an auditor is in the gotcha business, that they're trying to find a fault where you wrote something down on the wrong line, that you misrepresented, that you took too many deductions, whatever it might be. It's a fault-finding kind of process. So you got to kind of wash that clean and say, okay, what does it really mean? All right, and believe it or not, I asked this question when we first started this process to the guru of the academic audit, William Massey, and he was an accountant and business and finance vice president for a little school out west called Stanford University. Have you heard of it? And so I told him, I said, you know, Bill, people aren't going to like that word auditor. And he goes, I like that word very much. So we could never quite dislodge him from using the term, but my background is in English, so when I first had to present on the academic audit when I was at Chattanooga State, I looked it up and I went to the etymology of the word, and the word audit really is based upon what? Those of you in the health sciences? Audit? Auditory? Listening. Listening, okay? And it comes from a time when the illiterate sea captains would return from a voyage with a hull full of goods, and then they would recite back to the owners. They'd come into a room like this, and they would have grog and not coffee or tea, and they would actually recite back to the owners what they had accumulated, what was on the ship, and that's where the owners would be able to take record. They would listen. So an audit was a listening. So keep in mind, if you just say the academic listen, you'll have a good feeling for what your role is. Your role is to listen to your peers, listen to your colleagues, both from what they say, but especially at the site visit from what they actually say. Not only your peers, but students who are representing that program, who are in that program, other stakeholders. It might be adjunct faculty, it might be members of an advisory committee, maybe people from business and industry. It'll be different for every group. Look for ways that you can reinforce their processes that they use for teaching and learning to improve quality and student success. So we're really just kind of, again, the antithesis of what we think about in terms of an auditor. We're really looking for what they're doing well and what they're doing exceptionally well. And if they're doing something not so well, we do not think of it in terms of a fault or a weakness or a deficit. We look at it as a what? An opportunity for improvement. an opportunity for improvement. So that's what we're looking for. All right, so it's a really, we try to keep this a very, very positive, collaborative, peer sharing process, and I think it's worked very well as such. So on a pragmatic basis, these reviews and site visits and reports that you're writing are used by the institutions for their institutional effectiveness program. They're embedded in their documentation for SAC-COC reaffirmation. We've presented over the years many times at the SAC-COC annual meeting on the academic audit, and it has been attested to by many institutions as being an effective way of documenting the idea in institutional effectiveness is that we do something, we measure it, we evaluate the results of what we've done, and then what do we do with those results? Use them to improve, okay? Didn't you just say that? Something like that. Okay, so you can see that improvement model just kind of continuously coming around. That's the institutional effectiveness cycle, and that's what the academic audit does. So in your self-study reports, and most of you have received them already, there are a couple of ones that are probably coming through the airways into my box as we speak. You'll see that one of the expectations of each program is that they have identified initiatives for improvement. So no matter how great they are, and some of them are just wonderful, okay, you can always get better. You can always get better. When I was in high school back in the day, our cheerleading squad had a cheer that said, "Let's make the best better, a rah-rah." Okay. I'll try it one more too. You guys do the rah-rah. Let's make the best better. Rah-rah. There you go. Okay? So no matter how good we are, whether you're just learning how to shoot a free throw or you're Michael Jordan, you can always work on the jump shot, right? You can always work on that. The other thing, about 3 out of 4 of these programs that you'll be doing will use the academic audit to fulfill a requirement that the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, or THEC, has for quality assurance funding. So quality assurance funding is a series of measures that are done annually by THEC, and they result in extra monies for your institutions. All right, one of those metrics that they use is academic program review. And the academic audit is one of the ways that an institution can meet that requirement. So those of you who have programs that are for quality assurance funding will have a rubric to complete and score, and the score on that rubric will contribute in a small way. Don't think that your decision is going to make the difference of $100,000 one way or the other. But it will contribute to their overall quality assurance funding. And then the third way, and probably the most generic way, is that the academic audit is certainly a continuous quality improvement process, a CQI process. And what we are continuously and especially looking for is activities and initiatives that are really focused on student success, on helping those students who are not currently succeeding at the rate of other students, for example. I think that looking ahead, in a very short window, the community college programs that you are going to be reviewing will take on a stronger and stronger focus towards the adult community because of the Reconnect Act. So that's just one example of ways that you will be looking to guide these programs. And just as the programs develop initiatives for improvement that are in their self-study, you as an auditor team will develop recommendations. And recommendations are just what they sound like. So as you go through, you're not only evaluating, but you're actually contributing to this continuous improvement cycle. Okay, any questions at this point? Just jump in at any time, by the way. Well, you don't have to jump, just kind of start talking. But you can jump if you'd like to. Good. So this is a little bit about your team. 3 members. The team leaders are all experienced. So how many are team leaders in the room here? Okay, these are the people that have all the answers. So kind of during the break, go for them. But, and it doesn't mean that they've had experience leading a GIS team, for example. Okay, so once again, they know the ropes, they know the gig. And they can apply it to various programs, and have. Some of our academic auditors, and some of whom who have graciously acquiesced to being team leaders, have been doing this for a decade or more. Deborah's nodding her head, I think. Yeah, Patsy's nodding her head. Phyllis, taking a break from being a team leader. You've been a team leader many times. So many of us have been team leaders before. We talked about the representation of the membership, and here are some of the things we've talked about as this peer review team. So we're looking for kudos of ways that we can support what they're doing, and also to develop suggestions for improvement. We'll go through all of this in a little bit more depth. One thing before we get too far down the pipe is that if currently or at any point in time you feel like you're uncomfortable with the assignment that you've been given because of some situation with the institution or the program, or even someone in the program, you can always back out. This can happen actually during the process. That happened one time, that a person was on a team for a particular program. They were fine with it. They went into it, and then a position opened up at that institution for which that person wanted to apply. And so realizing that this had been brought to their attention, he contacted me, and I said, you don't have to say why. All we'll say is that you'll just disappear, and we'll bring somebody in from the wings, and it's just like a stand-in at a Broadway musical. Okay, it'll just keep right on going, and that's true from the program's point of view and from the host institution. If you see somebody on those 3 people that you're not comfortable with, you don't have to explain why. Don't ask me why. Just say, I'm not comfortable with this. Could we have someone else serve? And it doesn't mean that the person is a bad person. It's just we know that by the very nature of this process, that many of you will have relationships and interactions and collaborative experience with people from other of the institutions, with the institution that you're going to visit. You may even work there at one point in time, or have close friends who work there. We recognize that's not an exclusionary factor. What we have to be mindful of is that there isn't anything that would temper you providing a kind of clear and unbiased evaluation process. All right? Good? All right. So how do we get there? How do we get to May 12th from here? So here we are, February 7th. Going forward in the next several weeks, 4 to 6 to even 8 weeks, because the site visits, we actually have one site visit that's really out of sequence that Sam's involved with, that's going to be in February. And that was just an exception. It's usually that all the site visits are between mid-March and mid-April. So we start post-spring break and then go to about April 20th, I think, is the last one this year. So all of you should know your site visit date and have locked that out on your calendar. Between now and then, you'll have multiple interactions with your team. That can be on conference calls, that can be through Google Docs, that can be through email messages. In some cases, everybody in the team is close enough to get together at Starbucks somewhere. But mostly it's virtual communication back and forth to work through the process. Individually, you should review the self-study report, and then both individually and as a team prepare for the site visit. You'll have your site visit date. Then after the site visit, you will be responsible to contribute to a reflective report as a team, and also those of you who are doing quality assurance funding programs will, if you have not already, finalize your quality assurance funding rubric, and all that stuff gets done and is sent to me by the team leader by May 12th. So, any questions on the overall timeline?
Randy, last
Sam.
page of your PowerPoint, I think you have the deadline on May 11th. So which is the one, 11 or 12? The final report.
It doesn't matter. I think the 11th is a Friday this year, but I may have missed that here. But mid-May. And then from there, then you're done, by the way. That's it for the team. No further liability, no further responsibility. You are done. It comes to me. I distribute it to the institutions. And from that point forward, any questions or concerns or issues come to me and are resolved at the system level and do not go back to the team, just so you know. Let's see. So a little bit more about each one of these steps. Conferring with the team members. There's both the evaluative section and the pragmatic section. So early on, the team leader will interface with the academic audit coordinator from the host campus. Sometimes the host campus identifies a person in that program who will be your team leader's interface. So you may be going to APSU for the psychology program, and they may, Lynn Crosby, the academic audit coordinator, will say, make your arrangements with such and such in the psychology program, and then you'll have contact to that. For the most part, you go up on the day before the site visit date that you've been given and arrive when you arrive. What's ideal is to have all three team members there in time to go out to dinner together and have kind of a combination, getting to know you and social evening, and at the same time do some very pragmatic things. We'll get to that. Early on, you'll plan the site visit schedule, and that's in your guidebook, and we'll go to that also here. You'll decide on assigned focal areas. So the reports are all structured pretty much the same. They have an introduction. They have sections on the 4 major focal areas, and team members kind of divvy them up. So you might, for example, work on learning outcomes and teaching and curriculum, and someone else on your team will work on assessments, and so that's kind of how it works that way. And then as you're going through the self-study, you'll develop questions or prompts for your site visit. So what are you going to ask about what's written, and sometimes what are you going to ask about what's not written? What do you say? They haven't mentioned anything about, okay, and fill in the blank. For example, they've written their section on assessments, and they've told about the different types of assessments, and they're using multiple assessments, and they're using pre-assessments and post-assessments, but they're not saying anything about what they do with the results of those assessments. So you get all these assessments, and you find out that 75% of your students are, you know, at this level on this, and there's deficiency by 25% of the students. So is that just nice to know? Is that just data that you put on the chart? Or do you use that information to go back and What might you do with that? 75% are doing well, but 25% of your students are not doing well on a particular assessment. What could you do? It's okay. It's a pretty good percentage. And forget about it. Okay? So what could you do? You're now the auditor team member. What would you recommend the team do? They're not doing anything with it. They don't say that they do it. What could you do with that?
Develop a way to improve their scores.
Okay. All right. How might you do that?
Add tutors or something.
Okay.
Pre-test, post-test.
Pre-test, post-test. All right. Good. Are there ideas on how you could help that 1 out of every 4 students? Can you imagine if you were a doctor?
Just look at the questions.
Look at the questions, yeah. Review the assessment tool itself. Are they all missing number 13? Yeah. So they're all missing 13, 14. What can we do then, Sandra?
Well, you either throw them out or rewrite the questions.
Okay.
Or look to see if that material is being covered.
Yeah. Right. Right. See how brilliant you guys are? It just takes a little bit, and all of a sudden you're. In other words, do you see how you're adding value? All of a sudden you're adding value to this process, and they think they're doing a great job by figuring out that 1 out of 4 is not doing well. But now we're going to go in and we're going to push that envelope, because the expectation for us is how many of our students who start will finish with a degree. What's the aspirational expectation of all of our institutions? 100. Yeah. Yeah. We don't start class by saying, we hope that some of you just drop out because you're kind of dead weight around here. Okay? No, it doesn't mean that we all achieve it, but my gosh, that's what we're shooting for. And so if we can help move that arrow from 75% successful to 80% successful, wow, that's extraordinary. I think that's even statistically significant, but I've never known what that meant. But it sounds so good, doesn't it? Sounds so good. It has something to do with baseball, I think. So your questions and prompts, so if you found that in the self-study that there doesn't seem to be any evidence that a program's really doing anything with that data, one of the questions or prompts you might be was that, I see you've collected all this information. What do you do with this information? So they might look at you like a deer in the headlights and say, well, we collect it. We have it on a nice spreadsheet over the last 5 years. Well, that's good, all right? But they also might say, oh, well, what we do is we form a committee of the people who teach in that course, and then they come up with an action plan, right? And you're looking at the self-study and you're saying, I don't read that anywhere. It's not written down. Does that invalidate the response? No. That's sometimes the hardest thing for us to do when we're on a site visit, is to validate the responses with the same level of integrity as what was written, okay? Please remember this about the self-study, is that it's limited in number of pages. Otherwise, you'd all be reading War and Peace or something. So we have said from the very beginning, they get about 20 pages to tell their story. And there's often input from 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12, 15, 20 different people. Somebody invariably is editing things. Things get dropped, okay, on the cutting room floor that you kind of wish were on the silver screen. And the same is true with the self-study document. Sometimes people who are involved in this process didn't get the memo. They didn't come to the meeting. They didn't answer the email, okay? It's kind of like the DACA people. They just didn't sign up, all right? We won't say that they're too lazy, but we'll get in real trouble for that.
So for our recommendations, do we then comment on the self-study or the lack of, say we get something in an oral response that was not included in the self-study, but we felt was an important piece of information. Then as part of our recommendations, do we say, moving forward, when you give public assessments of your program, we would recommend that you include information about X, or do our recommendations not reflect back to what was given to us as part of the self-study?
Yes and no. If there's kind of a pattern of kind of under self-reporting, or if you're in a room with, let's say, 8 or 10 faculty, and you ask that question, and someone says, yeah, I don't think we do anything, and then someone across the room says, oh yeah, we do. This is what we do in my class, okay? Mary and Bob and I teach that class, and if we find that the assessment, which is a common assessment that we all use and we've developed together, has, you know, what you said, we try to figure out, did we cover the material? Do we cover it well? Do we need to cover it in a different manner? And then if that was a pattern throughout the site visit, then you might even be recommending, instead of just what you're presenting publicly, but in fact, build a greater sense of collaboration among your faculty, that there needs to be more recognition of the dynamics between what's actually going on and who knows about what's going on. And that has come out. Some of you have been there and done that, have heard those kinds of gaps come to the surface. That I know that one time early on that happened in a history program, and we talked about, well, what do you do as a faculty to collaborate? And so these, like 3 people were talking and back and forth about how they worked together and did this and selected textbooks together and all this stuff and built curricula and all this stuff, and the other 2 people were over on the other side of the room saying nothing. And so I turned to him and I said, well, what about you? Are you guys involved in this? He said, no, they're all post-Renaissance. We're medievalist. And I was like, what am I missing here? It's like the Dark Ages. I mean, I just didn't quite know how to. So, but it just seemed as though, in other words, there was example of collaboration and interaction and dynamic, but it wasn't inclusive. That there were these arbitrary kind of subdivisions that were in place during the faculty. And it's like, well, if you're a medievalist, you have nothing to do with people who teach the Renaissance. Now, somehow I remember kind of one ended and the other began, but I don't know when that was. Maybe it's everything prior to 1317 or something is medieval, and I'm not quite sure. But that's what you really want to be looking for, is there really a sense of cohesion among the program where people are speaking and talking and stuff. And if it were everybody was kind of on board and you were getting all this new information that wasn't in the self-study report, that would be a good recommendation. Because one of the things that we feel is a resource for programs as they go forward is that self-study document. So as new faculty come into a program, new administrators, new department chairs, new deans, there's a historical record of the program and where it was at a certain point in time. And if it's incomplete, then it weakens it as a resource. Very good point. And then the last bullet here, if you are doing a quality assurance funding program, and I will send that out to all of you just to reinforce whether you are or are not to review the quality assurance funding rubric criteria individually and as a team, so that you're not trying to grapple with these at the site visit. One of the significant changes, though, this year, and those of you who have done this before, and especially team leaders, is that this year and going forward, it is not required that you complete and present the quality assurance funding rubric at the site visit. Okay? What we have found in again, having conversations electronically and person to person with people who like yourself are out there in the field, that the amount of time that we have at the site visit, the amount of time that we have to work in preparation for the exit session is often not enough time to really work out the final scoring for the quality assurance funding rubric. So we're going to take that pressure off, give you a chance as a team to go back, to reflect, to have another conference call, to share, to go back and forth. Do you think this is a 3 or a 4? Is this a 2 or a 1? whatever it might be, and not have to grapple with that and come to some fast-paced decision that day. If it is all done, everybody's happy with it, then you can certainly present it and say, here it is, but not required. Let's see, the second thing, reviewing the self-study. Again, you'll have some parts of the self-study that will be your focus, developing the questions and prompts. And here we get into our favorite acronym of CARS, okay? CARS is an acronym for what?
Commendations, affirmations.
Okay, loud and clear?
Say it again.
Commendations, affirmations, and recommendations.
Very good, very good. So these will be the categories of returns to the program, all right, that you will, as a team, develop. Somewhere between 3 and 5 commendations, 3 to 5 affirmations, 3 to 5 recommendations. And again, reviewing the rubrics.